Hey guys, I'm so excited about this video. We're starting on the very final stages of the mouse house. Now I just wanted to explain the editing of this video before we get started. When I was working on the mouse house, I was a little ADHD, working from one section to the next and jumping back and forth and stuff. So in order to make the video flow in some sort of logical order, I've edited the footage into sections. You might get glimpses in each section of other bits you haven't seen done yet, but don't worry, you'll get to see them properly later. So sit back and enjoy creating the front panel for the mouse house. Before I get stuck into the front panel, I wanted to add a little more realistic detail to the fireplace. So I dabbed some tacky glue inside the fireplace just beside the logs and used a brush to put some shaved chalk pastels to look like ashes. I reckon I nailed it. So on an MDF panel that Mr. Nessie very kindly cut out a door and window for me, I used my white glue and water mix to both size the wall and then glue down the wallpaper, which I already cut to fit, making sure to smooth out any air bubbles and get full contact on the wall. This side, of course, is on the inside wall. Oh, my beloved angle cutters before they broke. I miss them. Here I'm using popsicle sticks to make the door and window frames. If you're wondering why the door frame isn't going all the way to the bottom of the wall, it's because that's where the height of the floor comes to. It was also about now that the cutters broke. I'll spare you the sounds of my anguish cries, but as you can see, it didn't hold me back any. Of course, the trim needs to be painted white to match the rest of the trim in the room. And I'm telling you, that masking tape trick to hold things steady while you paint is a brilliant hack. Then I glued them in place once they were dry. To keep them nice and flat, I used little paint pots to weigh them down, but you can use whatever weights you have handy. Those corner joins can take a bit of time and fine tuning with the sanding to get that fit just right. I covered the joins with a little modelling paste to tidy them up, but you could use spackle or something similar. Now I have no idea where half the footage here went, so I apologise. But to make the curtains, I found some curtain sample fabric at a garage sale, cut it into 2 strips with pink hinges and dipped it into the glue and water mix and wiped off the excess with my fingers. What I've done here is I've taken a scrap of foam board to use as a curtain rod, and as I arranged the curtains into the shape and positions I wanted, I would pin them in place to dry. I made sure to wrap the top edge of the curtains around the foam board to hide it. And because I was too impatient to wait, I grabbed some cotton lace that I wanted to use as the curtain tie backs, dipped it in the water and glue mix and wrapped it around the curtains and left them all to dry. Now they're dry, I can trim off any long bits I don't need and use fabric glue to secure any loose bits. Now they're ready to glue in place at the window with contact adhesive. For the doorstep, I used a few layers of foam board the same width as the doorway, and I glued them together with contact adhesive. I used white glue and torn pieces of paper towel to paper mache over the foam board. Paper mache is crazy versatile, you can do so much with it. If you're new to this channel, click subscribe so you don't miss any new uploads. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and don't forget to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Now it's dry, I'm using contact adhesive again to glue paving stones cut out from takeout drink trays. Tacky glue would work just fine, but I'm far too impatient to wait for that to dry. Fill in any gaps and trim off any overhangers. I think I'm getting better at not gluing myself to my creations, yay! Oh, and don't forget to dry fit to make sure it still fits in place. I gave the whole doorstep a coat of white glue to seal it. You could use Mod Podge if you prefer. Now to paint the stones grey. I started with all the gaps and edges first before painting the rest of the stones. That way I made sure I've got good coverage. When that was dry, I gave it a coat of clear varnish. And when that was dry, I filled all the gaps between the stones with spackle, or +4 as we call it here in New Zealand, and I wiped off any excess with the damp paper towel. Now please remember, this video is sped up quite a bit. There's no way I can work this fast, but if I didn't speed things up, we will be looking at movie length videos some days. Okay, so the dry pasta between the stones is way too bright white for my liking. So I'm going to give it a wash with very watered down grey paint and blotting off the excess, and followed it up with a coat of Mod Podge. I used the matte one. Onto the door now. I had some door hardware I purchased online, but it looked too bright and shiny, so I'm giving a bit of age by painting it with a mix of white glue and black paint and blotting off the excess. I ended up not using the door knocker in the end, but I'll save it for another project. Mind you, I also couldn't decide which way the door knocker was supposed to face either. Using a double thickness of corrugated cardboard cut out to fit my doorway, I spackled all the edges to help strengthen them and left it to dry before giving it a light sanding. I wanted a small window in the door, so I cut one out with a craft knife. Then I covered the whole thing with masking tape. Using the paper mache technique with paper towel and the water and glue mix, I covered all the edges of the door first and let it dry before moving on to the texturing part. If your fingers start getting stuck to the paper, just dip them in the glue to lubricate them. It sounds counterintuitive, but it really does help. Anywho, once that's dry, I used longer pieces of paper towel, and with the paper mache method, I scrunched them up to make the door look like textured old wood. Make sure all the edges of your paper towel are torn so it blends better and you won't be left with obvious lines or seams where you don't want them. I know this just looks like a wrinkled mess right now, but trust me, this is going to work out in the end. And if you're impatient like me, it dries pretty quick if you give it a blast with a hairdryer or a fan. I gave it a top coat of the glue and water mix once it was dry to seal it. Again, Mod Podge would do the trick nicely. Now for the painting. First up, a solid coat of black paint, and when that was dry, I dry brushed on coats of burnt umber, burnt sienna and the lightest touch of beige. Any areas you get a little too much colour on can be easily wiped off with a paper towel, or you could paint over it if you're really not happy with it. It's really quite forgiving that way. And when you are happy with it, give it a coat of clear varnish. The mail slot on the door is going to need a basket on the inside to catch all Miss Mouse's mail. So I cut a piece of loosely woven fabric and pulled out every few threads. It was bloomin' fiddly, but I'm trying to fake a wire basket here. I ended up finding it easier to do it with my fingers. So I painted the fabric gold on both sides, and then I covered it with fabric glue to A, hold the threads in place, and B, stiffen them. I found some gold coloured wire in my stash, so I cut a few pieces and bent them to form the frame for the basket and glued them together with contact adhesive. When that was secure, I started to glue on the basket mesh I just made. Clothes pegs are great at holding in place for me, and again you get to see me being too impatient, waiting for the glue to dry, and I trim off the edges while I wait. check out all those letters. Miss Mouse is really popular. I'll post a short video showing how simple it is to make letters. Now on to attaching the hardware. Placement is important, and you must remember to put the door handles at the same height on both sides of the door, or it will look really odd. The black marker line represents the mail slot on the door without actually cutting the slot out. Miniatures are often about creating the illusion of something. The window slot needs some glass, so using a scrap of plastic packaging I hoarded, I traced out a piece to fit the window slot. It took a few dry fits and trims to get it to fit in just right. For more detail, I used a scrap of black vinyl to make some fake wrought iron hinges like you see on very old doors. Trying to cut 3 identical ones was a challenge, but I got them pretty close, and I just glued them on the front of the door with contact adhesive. Finally, I added the real hinges. I quickly realised that the little nails that come with the hinges might be too bulky, so I solved that problem by using some pins, the same ones that you saw when I made the curtains. I cut them shorter, dipped them in contact adhesive and poked them into the door hinges. I want to also note here that I glued the hinges in place with contact adhesive, but I added the pins to help strengthen them. Alright guys, this video is getting seriously long now, so I will continue on with the front panel in the next video in 2 weeks time. If you haven't already hit the notification bell, do so because you don't want to miss out. And if you're still watching, I appreciate you so much. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!